If you are eating dinner after 7 p.m., stop right now, because this one habit is why your A1C will not budge no matter how perfect you eat the rest of the day. Your last meal controls 12 straight hours of blood sugar exposure. That is half your day where glucose is either bathing your cells in damage or giving them a chance to heal. And most diabetic seniors eat this meal at exactly the wrong time with exactly the wrong foods, which is why their morning fasting glucose stays high and their A1C creeps up every 3 months. I am Dr. Leonard Javier. In this video, I am going to show you the exact meal structure that clinical trials prove can drop your A1C by 0.6% in just 12 weeks. That is the same reduction most medications give you, but from one meal. I will rank the 4 components you must include, starting with number 4 and working up to number 1, the one ingredient that cuts post-meal glucose spikes by 37%. But first you need to understand what is really happening inside your bloodstream overnight while you sleep. Your A1C is not a snapshot like a fingerstick test. It measures how much glucose has been sticking to your red blood cells over the past 2 to 3 months. The more hours your blood sugar stays elevated, the higher your A1C climbs. And here is the problem. The longest uninterrupted stretch of elevated blood sugar happens overnight. You eat dinner around 6 or 7 p.m., then you do not eat again for 12 to 14 hours. That is half your day. If your blood sugar spikes after dinner and stays high all night, you are essentially soaking your red blood cells in glucose for 12 straight hours every single night. But it gets worse. Your body's ability to handle glucose drops significantly in the evening. Research published in Diabetes Care shows that insulin sensitivity, your cell's ability to respond to insulin, plummets after 6 p.m. and keeps falling until morning. Your pancreas also secretes less insulin at night, and elevated melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy, actually suppresses insulin release even further. So you are hitting your body with food at exactly the time it is least equipped to handle it. This is why the composition and timing of your last meal is the most powerful lever you can pull to lower your A1C. Now let me show you exactly how to build that meal. I am going to break this down into 4 ranked components. These are not my opinions. Each one is backed by randomized controlled trials that measured actual A1C changes in diabetic patients. I am starting with number 4 and working up to number 1, the single most important component. Component number 4 is strategic carbohydrates, if you include them at all. Most diabetics are told to avoid carbs entirely, and I understand why. Bread, rice, pasta, potatoes all spike blood sugar fast. But here is the truth. If you are going to eat starchy carbs at dinner, they need to be first, the last thing you eat on your plate. Second, in the smallest portion. Third, in their most fiber-intact, lowest glycemic form. That means sweet potato instead of white potato, quinoa or barley instead of white rice, beans and lentils instead of bread. And here is a trick that doubles the benefit. If you cook rice or potatoes, then cool them in the refrigerator overnight and reheat them before eating, you create something called resistant starch. A study in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that cooling rice increased resistant starch content and significantly reduced the glycemic response when people ate it. Here is why this matters. When you cool starchy foods, the starch molecules realign into a crystalline structure that your digestive enzymes cannot break down efficiently. This resistant starch acts like fiber. Your body cannot digest it quickly, so it does not spike blood sugar. Even better, resistant starch feeds the beneficial bacteria in your colon, producing short-chain fatty acids like butyrate that improve insulin sensitivity throughout your entire body. But honestly, for most people trying to drop their A1C fast, I recommend keeping dinner as low carb as possible. Save your carbohydrate budget for earlier in the day when your insulin sensitivity is higher. If you do include carbs, keep the portion to the size of your fist, not your whole plate, and remember, eat them last after everything else. Now, let us move to number 3. Component number 3 is fiber-rich, non-starchy vegetables. This is where most people fail. They think, I will eat a small salad and some protein. Wrong. Vegetables need to cover at least half your plate, and I am not talking about corn or peas or carrots. Those are starchy. I am talking about leafy greens like spinach, kale, arugula, and Swiss chard. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. Low glycemic options like zucchini, eggplant, bell peppers, asparagus, and green beans. Why does this matter so much? Because fiber forms a gel-like substance in your intestines that traps glucose and slows its absorption. A landmark study published in the New England Journal of Medicine showed that people with type 2 diabetes who increased their fiber intake to 50 grams per day saw significant improvements in blood sugar control, better than a standard diabetes diet. But here is the key. You need to load up on vegetables at dinner, not just add a side salad. Let me explain what happens when you do not eat enough fiber at dinner. Without that gel barrier, glucose molecules rush through your intestinal wall and flood into your bloodstream all at once. Your pancreas has to dump massive amounts of insulin to deal with the spike. Over time, your cells become resistant to that insulin signal, which is exactly what makes diabetes worse. But when you eat 2 cups or more of non-starchy vegetables, that fiber slows everything down. Glucose trickles into your bloodstream gradually. Your pancreas releases insulin in steady, manageable amounts. Your cells stay sensitive, your blood sugar stays stable all night long. The fiber and water content will also fill you up, crowd out higher glycemic foods, and prevent that late-night hunger that drives so many people to the kitchen for a snack, which destroys all the progress you just made. Aim for at least 2 cups of non-starchy vegetables at dinner. More is better. And here is a bonus tip. Raw vegetables have slightly more fiber than cooked ones because cooking breaks down some of the cell walls. So if you can tolerate raw vegetables, like a big salad with spinach, cucumbers, bell peppers, and tomatoes, that is even better for blood sugar control. Now let us get to number 2. This is where the magic starts. Component number 2 is healthy fats that protect overnight. After vegetables, your second priority is adding healthy fats to your meal. And I am talking about monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, not saturated fats from butter or fatty red meat. Fats do 2 critical things for overnight blood sugar control. First, like fiber, they slow digestion and prevent glucose spikes. Second, certain fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids, improve insulin sensitivity at the cellular level. A meta-analysis of 10 randomized controlled trials published in Clinical Nutrition that omega-3 supplementation significantly reduced fasting glucose and improved insulin resistance in people with type 2 diabetes. But let me explain the mechanism here because this is important. Your cell membranes are made up of fatty acids. When you eat healthy fats like omega-3s, they get incorporated into those cell membranes. This changes the membrane's fluidity and structure, which makes insulin receptors work better. Think of it like oiling a rusty hinge. When the hinge is stiff, the door does not open smoothly. When you oil it, suddenly it swings freely. Omega-3s do the same thing for your insulin receptors. They make them more responsive to insulin signal. On top of that, healthy fats trigger the release of hormones like CCK and PYY that signal fullness to your brain. This is why adding fat to your dinner helps you avoid late-night cravings. Here is what to include. Extra virgin olive oil drizzled over your vegetables. Half an avocado. Fatty fish like salmon, which overlaps with protein perfectly. A small handful of walnuts, almonds or pecans. Chia seeds or ground flaxseed on your salad. Do not go overboard. Fats are calorie-dense. 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil, half an avocado, or a small handful of nuts is plenty. And one more thing, timing matters here too. If you add fat to your meal but eat it after your carbohydrates, you will not get the full benefit. The fat needs to be in your stomach before the carbs arrive so it can slow down gastric emptying. Now let us get to number 1, the most important component. This is the one that clinical studies show can cut post-meal glucose by 37% and insulin by 36%. Component number 1 is high-quality protein. Your dinner should start with at least 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein, and you need to eat the protein first before anything else on your plate. This is not just advice. This is backed by hard science. A randomized crossover trial published in Diabetes Care showed that when people with type 2 diabetes ate protein and vegetables before carbohydrates, their post-meal glucose was 29% lower and their insulin levels were 37% lower compared to eating the same foods in a different order. Same meal, different order, 37% lower insulin. Why does this work? When protein hits your stomach first, it slows gastric emptying. Your stomach literally takes longer to push food into your intestines. This means glucose enters your bloodstream gradually instead of all at once. But there is another mechanism at play here. Protein stimulates a hormone called GLP-1. The same hormone drugs like Ozempic are designed to mimic. GLP-1 makes you feel fuller, slows digestion, improves insulin sensitivity, and tells your pancreas to release insulin more efficiently. Natural GLP-1 from protein is different from the drug version. It is released in pulses in the exact amounts your body needs without the side effects like nausea or gastroparesis that some people get from the medications. There is also evidence that eating protein first reduces ghrelin, your hunger hormone, which is why people who eat protein-first meals report feeling satisfied for hours without needing to snack. Here is what to eat. The best protein sources for dinner are wild-caught salmon or fatty fish like mackerel or sardines. These also give you omega-3s, pasture-raised chicken or turkey, grass-fed beef in moderation, eggs if you are eating breakfast for dinner, or legumes like lentils or chickpeas for plant-based protein. Aim for a palm-sized portion, about 4 to 6 ounces. And remember, eat this first before your vegetables, before your carbs, before anything. Some people ask me, what if I cannot eat that much protein in one sitting? Fair question. If you struggle to eat 30 to 40 grams of protein at dinner, start with 20 grams and work your way up over a few weeks. Your stomach will adapt. You can also spread it out slightly. Eat half your protein, then your vegetables, then the rest of your protein, then any carbs. The key is that protein needs to hit your stomach before carbohydrates do. Now, let me walk you through what happens inside your body when you start eating this way. Most people focus on the scale or their morning glucose readings, but the real changes are happening at the cellular level, changes you cannot see, but that literally determine whether you reverse your diabetes or let it progress. In the first week of eating this meal structure, your pancreas gets a break. For years, your pancreas has been overworking, trying to pump out enough insulin to handle blood sugar spikes. It is like an engine that has been running in the red zone constantly. Eventually, it starts to fail. But when you eat protein first, add healthy fats, load up on fiber, and minimize carbs at dinner, your pancreas only has to release insulin in small controlled bursts. Within 7 days, studies show that beta cell function, the cells in your pancreas that make insulin, starts to improve. The cells are not exhausted anymore. They can respond more efficiently to glucose in your bloodstream. You will notice this as lower fasting glucose in the morning. Most people see a drop of 10 to 20 points in that first week alone. But that is just the beginning. In week 2, something else starts happening. Your inflammatory markers begin to drop. Chronic high blood sugar creates oxidative stress and inflammation throughout your entire body. This inflammation damages the lining of your blood vessels, creates insulin resistance in your muscles and liver, and accelerates aging. But when you stabilize your overnight blood sugar with this meal structure, your body gets 12 hours of repair time instead of 12 hours of damage time. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that just 2 weeks of improved glycemic control significantly reduced markers of inflammation like CRP and IL-6. You will start feeling this as better energy. You will not wake up feeling foggy or sluggish. Your joints might hurt less. You might notice your mood is more stable. By week 3, your metabolism starts to shift. Your liver, which has been dumping glucose into your bloodstream all night long to compensate for insulin resistance, starts to quiet down. A process called hepatic gluconeogenesis, where your liver makes new glucose from protein and fat, decreases. Your muscles start pulling glucose out of your blood more efficiently. Insulin sensitivity improves by as much as 20% in some studies. And here is the most important part. your A1C starts to drop. Remember, A1C measures the average glucose sticking to your red blood cells over 2 to 3 months. Red blood cells live for about 120 days. So every day you keep your blood sugar stable, you are replacing damaged red blood cells with healthy ones. After 3 weeks, about 17% of your red blood cells are brand new and have not been exposed to high glucose. That is when you start seeing the A1C numbers drop. But here is what I need you to understand. This is not a 3-week fix. This is a lifestyle fix. The changes I just described only stick if you keep eating this way. If you go back to eating high-carb dinners late at night, your pancreas goes back into overdrive. Inflammation comes back and your A1C creeps up again. That is why consistency matters more than perfection. You do not need to eat this exact meal structure 100% of the time. If you hit it 5 or 6 nights per week, you will still see massive improvements. Now, let me show you what cancels out all these benefits. You can build the perfect meal with all 4 components, but if you make these mistakes, your blood sugar will spike anyway. And these mistakes are so common that I would estimate 8 out of 10 diabetics are making at least one of them right now. Mistake number 1, drinking juice, soda, or sweet drinks with dinner. This seems obvious, but I see it constantly. People eat a perfect low glycemic dinner, then wash it down with orange juice or sweet tea or a healthy smoothie. Liquid sugar bypasses all the protective mechanisms we just talked about. It does not have to be digested. It goes straight into your bloodstream and spikes glucose within minutes. Even 100% fruit juice with no added sugar is a problem. A study in the BMJ showed that higher consumption of fruit juice was associated with increased risk of type 2 diabetes, while eating whole fruits had the opposite effect. 1 glass of orange juice contains the sugar from 4 to 5 oranges, but none of the pulp or fiber. Your body does not know the difference between orange juice and soda when it comes to blood sugar impact. Stick to water, unsweetened tea, black coffee, or sparkling water with lemon, no exceptions. Mistake number 2, eating dinner late at night. Remember that circadian rhythm we talked about? Your insulin sensitivity keeps dropping as the evening goes on. A study published in Metabolism found that eating the same meal at 8 p.m. resulted in significantly higher glucose levels compared to eating it at 6 p.m. Your body has an internal clock that controls thousands of metabolic processes, including insulin secretion. In the morning, your pancreas is primed to release insulin efficiently. By evening, that system starts shutting down in preparation for sleep. If you eat late, your pancreas cannot keep up with the glucose load. Ideally, finish dinner at least 3 hours before bed. If you go to bed at 10 p.m., finish eating by 7 p.m. at the latest. If you absolutely cannot eat by 7 p.m., then make your late dinner as low carb as possible, just protein and vegetables. No starchy carbs at all. Mistake number 3, eating fruit for dessert immediately after dinner. A lot of people think, I will skip cake and have fruit instead. That is better, but timing matters. If you eat fruit, especially high-sugar fruits like grapes, mangoes, or pineapple, right after dinner, you are adding a glucose load on top of whatever carbohydrates you just ate. Fruit contains fructose, which your liver has to process before it can be used for energy. When you eat fruit after a meal, especially a meal with some carbs, your liver gets overwhelmed. It starts converting that excess fructose into fat through a process called de novo lipogenesis. This not only raises your triglycerides, it also worsens insulin resistance over time. If you want fruit, eat it at least 2 hours after dinner, or better yet, save it for earlier in the day when your insulin sensitivity is higher. Choose low glycemic fruits, like berries, which have less sugar and more fiber than tropical fruits. Mistake number 4, skipping the post-dinner walk. Here is a free tool that dramatically lowers post-meal blood sugar. A 10 to 15-minute walk right after you finish eating. A randomized crossover study published in Diabetology showed that 10-minute walks after each meal reduced 24-hour glucose levels by 12% in people with type 2 diabetes, and the effect was most pronounced when the walk happened within 30 minutes of finishing the meal. When you walk, your muscles need energy. They pull glucose out of your bloodstream to fuel movement without needing insulin. Your leg muscles contain a special protein called GLUT4 that acts like a glucose transporter. When you contract your muscles by walking, GLUT4 moves to the cell surface and starts pulling glucose inside. This is why walking works even when insulin resistance is severe. You are bypassing the broken insulin system entirely. You do not need to power walk or break a sweat, just a casual stroll around the block. If you cannot walk due to mobility issues, even standing up and doing light movement, washing dishes, folding laundry, or stretching helps. The key is not sitting or lying down immediately after eating. Stay upright and keep moving for at least 10 to 15 minutes. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. If this meal works so well, can I stop taking my diabetes medication? Let me be very clear. Do not stop taking your medication without talking to your doctor first. But here is what the research shows. In clinical trials, people who followed meal structures similar to what I just described were able to reduce their medication dosages over time under medical supervision. A study published in Diabetes Therapy found that intensive dietary interventions, including meal timing, macronutrient composition, and food sequencing, allowed 57% of participants to reduce or eliminate at least one diabetes medication within 12 weeks. Some people got off metformin completely, others were able to lower their insulin doses significantly. But this did not happen overnight, and it did not happen without careful monitoring. Here is the right way to approach this. Step 1. Start eating this dinner structure consistently for 2 to 4 weeks. Step 2. Track your fasting glucose every morning and log any patterns. Step 3. Bring your glucose logs to your doctor and ask, "My blood sugar is getting better with these dietary changes. Should we consider adjusting my medications?" Step 4. Work with your doctor to slowly reduce medication dosages while continuing to monitor your blood sugar closely. The goal is not to prove you do not need medication. The goal is to need less medication over time. Now here is your simple protocol. You can start tonight. Step 1. Plan dinner between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. Finish eating by 7 p.m. at the absolute latest. If you work late or have scheduling conflicts, do your best to finish eating at least 3 hours before bed. Step 2. Build your plate in this exact order. Component number 1. 4 to 6 ounces of protein like salmon, chicken, eggs, or legumes. Component number 2. 1 to 2 tablespoons of healthy fat like olive oil, avocado, or nuts. Component number 3. At least half your plate covered in non-starchy vegetables. Component number 4. A small amount of low glycemic carbs if needed, like sweet potato, quinoa, or beans. Fist-sized portion. Step 3. Eat in sequence. Protein first. Eat at least half your protein before touching anything else. Then vegetables. Then the rest of your protein if you have any left. Carbohydrates last, or skip them entirely. This sequence alone can drop your post-meal glucose by 30% or more. Step 4. Drink only water or unsweetened beverages. No juice, no soda, no sweet tea, not even healthy smoothies. Step 5. Take a 10 to 15 minute walk after eating, even if it is just around your house or yard. Get your muscles moving, set a timer for 10 minutes. Walk at a comfortable pace. Step 6. Track your fasting glucose the next morning. Write it down, keep a log for at least 7 days. After 1 week of eating this way, most people see their fasting blood sugar drop by 10 to 20 points. After 3 months, you should see a measurable drop in your A1C, anywhere from 0.4 to 0.6% based on the studies. Step 7. Repeat this 5 to 6 nights per week. You do not need perfection. You need consistency. If you have a special occasion or you eat out on the weekend, that is fine. Just get back on track the next day. This is not a miracle cure. You still need to manage your overall diet, stay active, get enough sleep, and work with your doctor on medications, but this one meal, done right every single day, can move the needle on your A1C faster than almost anything else. And unlike medications, this meal has 0 side effects. You are just eating real food in the right order at the right time. Which mistake have you been making? Eating too late? Drinking juice with dinner? Eating carbs first? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you want more videos on reversing insulin resistance and lowering blood sugar naturally, I have got a whole series. The next video is on your screen right now. Tap it and I will see you there.